All right. Hey, Lab Code agents. We've got Nick Baldwin and Dan's still here. Hey, Dan. And we
Wait.
are
Oh,
interviewing
now we're live.
Chris. Now we're live. All right. Hey, Lab Code agents. Let's try this the second time. We've got Chris Stuart with us. He's the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. And today he's talking to us from his car up in Livermore, did you say?
Livermore, yeah, the East Bay, San Francisco Bay Area, the East Bay.
Nice. We've got a couple of friends out there, right, Nick? Like Nicolay. She runs a whole group out of there. But today, we want to talk to Chris because not only is he CEO of Berkshire, but the first time I met this guy, we had dinner. It was Chris, it was Gino, Troy, and a few other amazing people at Irvine. And we were talking about where the world of real estate was heading. And I think we're right in the middle of it right now. And seeing all these companies coming in and trying to take a piece of the real estate world, trying to take a piece of the commission. Chris, what do you see happening now? What's the biggest challenge that the real estate industry is facing in the next year or two?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I got to say, Tristan and Nick and Dan and all the other great folks there at Lab Coat Agents is thank you for what you do for our industry. And I'm especially honored and humbled to have an opportunity to speak to you and the group here that you've assembled across the country. You know, to me, I feel like the real estate agent is the heartbeat of the world's real estate economy. And I think that if we had more people in real estate sales that demonstrated the commitment, the dedication, the passion that is represented by the people that are a part of Lab Coat Agents by virtue of how much time they spend getting better at their craft, investing in understanding of how to operationalize their expertise and grow their books of business, et cetera, we'd be much better off as an industry, right? So the first thing to establish for me is I am completely committed to leveraging all of the resources at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services to enhance and enrich and extend the value that the real estate sales professional provides into this industry. And so, you know, to have an opportunity with a group like this is a real honor. So,
well, dude, that is super awesome.
Super sweet.
So thank you for saying that. It's super awesome.
Didn't expect that, Chris. So thank you.
Yeah.
But you can keep going if you want.
Yeah, no, but honestly, I mean, that's a reflection of you guys and the folks that are in this group, right? I mean, if we had more people organizing themselves around getting better and sharing best practices and understanding, think about reputationally the amount of equity that we would earn with our buyers and sellers, right? And I think it's precisely because so many of our industry's real estate sales professionals don't, dedicate themselves and provide this much, discipline to their craft, that we're in a position where these, pretenders or, these magical disruptors, as I like to call them, are in a position to even have any influence over what's happening. So let me address the question, right? Is I come at this from a little bit different angle in the sense that I started my professional career 25 years ago in Silicon Valley. I started in technology. I started in systems integration and enterprise tech, and went to work at Oracle as a global account executive early on in my career. And this was the late 90s and early part of the 2000s, both leading up to and after the dot-com boom and bust, right? So I've been in a climate personally where there's a lot of technology-centric transformation and change. So as I started to evaluate what was happening to the real estate industry over the last, let's say, 10 years, a lot of the experiences that I went through in the mid 90s and early 2000s, just provided me with really a different lens. And so as I thought about this whole topic of transformation late last year, and what impact it would have in shaping my vision and my leadership for our network, I recalled a lot of those experiences, again, going back to the mid 90s and early parts of the 2000s. And so here's what I started to really explore. So what impact has technology had on the industry in the last 10 years? And even the last 20 years, right? Because if you think about it, technology as a means of transforming industries isn't a last 10-year phenomenon. It's been accelerated in the last 10 years because of the iPhone, right? And the growth of connectivity and the speed of our networks, undoubtedly. But technology-centric transformation has been 25 years. And so what I started to uncover is a couple of key performance indicators in the industry that I think are telling. Number one, in the United States, we've added 20 million households in the last 20 years. That's a very positive thing, right? So we've got about 120 million households in the United States that we're servicing. 74 million of those are owner-occupied. 44 million of those are renter-occupied. So then what I wanted to see is, okay, so what's the participation rate? What's happening transactionally within the real estate environment? And this would be no different, by the way, than any other industry's inspection of what are their key drivers and key performance indicators. In other words, let's say automotive. The automotive industry would ask, are there more or less people of driver age, let's say 16 years? Are the people 16 years or older growing or shrinking? If that was growing, then the automotive industry would say, okay, are we issuing more driver's licenses or less? And are people as a whole buying more new and used vehicles? They would want to know that. I don't see our industry asking these fundamental questions. And when you look at the data, despite the fact that we've grown 220 million households, so we've added 20 million households in the last 20 years, the amount of resale transaction volume that we've turned over in 20 years is completely flat. We're on pace to sell just about 5 million homes. In fact, a few months at the end of last year, we were trending just under 5 million resale transactions in the United States. That's the identical number of resale transactions we turned over 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the percentage of our new homes inventory to percentage of inventory that's attributable to new homes, that used to account for more than 20% of our unit volume. Now it's below 15%. And when you look at the key threshold issues, to me, the number one threshold issue is participation rate in our industry. We're now hovering in the low 60% home ownership rate, 62, 63% homeowners. The percentage of our home buyers that are first-time buyers is also trailing negative. We're now in the low 30% range. And as we know, the turnover of our resales, so the average amount of time that homeowners stay in their home before they resell, has basically doubled. If you go from 85 to 2010 and then 2010 to now, it's basically doubled the amount of time to turn over our resale inventory. To me, those are the threshold issues. And what I'm saying to our network is, if technology reports, if the industry reports that there's all this transformation and change, what I'm asking is, where is it? Where is it in terms of impacting any of our fundamental industry metrics? And what I'm encouraging our agents to understand, back to my initial point, is the technology in and of itself is not doing anything to drive change in a positive way to any of our industry's key performance indicators, which means that the agent is at the heartbeat, the very center of everything that's happening. And if the agent continues to concede our role and influence to these technologies, we're going to lose, and the industry will lose as a result by virtue of lower participation, lower home ownership, et cetera, et cetera.
How do we fight that then, Chris? I mean, how do we?
For the long-winded opening there, but
that was
really where my
I love that opening.
That was a great response.
Here's my question, right? So, if that's the case, why are there so many real estate technology disruptors like Open Door, Knock, Zillow with their instant offers? Why are there so many of them emerging, and why are there so many billions of dollars poured into these startups when the market, like you just said, isn't really showing that there's necessarily a need for that, right? Like saying that.
Right. So
home sale rates are the same as they were 20 years ago. What gives them this idea that that's necessary?
Well, I think that, first of all, I believe that there are fundamental inefficiencies in how we're operating as an industry. There's fundamental inefficiencies, right? I mean, there is no doubt that we need to provide a better customer experience to our buyers and sellers. Undoubtedly.
Very true.
And I think there's a lot of people aimed at solving that. I do think that there's some unrealistic expectations in terms of how do you monetize that, right? But to answer your question, Nick, think about the obnoxious amounts of venture capital that were funding startups in the late 90s leading up to the dot-com boom, right? I can recall hundreds of stories I was personally involved in. Think about webvan.com. They did a $1.2 billion IPO. I think they were out of business in 18 months. Post-IPO, they lost $100 million in valuation every month after their IPO.
Wow.
And, I was a part of various Silicon Valley startups and teams and initiatives where the enterprises involved lost hundreds of millions of dollars in a course of, 12, 18, 24 months, and were out of business, poof, like that within 6 months after the calendar turned in 2000. So I don't necessarily correlate business value or business need to the appetite of investors. And we all know that we've had this long run up. We've had a long extended bull market in the stock market. And quite frankly, when we're in that kind of economy, investors of all sorts are looking to jump in on the next best thing.
Sure.
I've never believed that the venture capital markets and the public markets operate with perfect efficiency in terms of understanding. I remember aunts and uncles and people from, that I grew up with in Texas that had absolutely no idea what technology meant or what it was doing, investing in various startups and moving portions of their retirement funds into tech stocks. And I don't see a lot of difference in a lot of the underlying fundamentals of these businesses that are getting these crazy valuations and funding rounds. To me, I've read this book before.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Well, dude, you come from the tech world, right? You work for Oracle, so you saw this before. You're very familiar with it, whereas most agents, we come from that non-tech world, right? We're not business people by heart. Yes,
right.
It's different, Chris. So with what you said, how do you see the average agent battling this next onslaught of tech coming at us from left and right?
Well, yeah. So here's the thing: is I believe that our industry's intense fascination with disruption is disruptive, and what I mean by that, it starts with our mindsets, right? It starts with our mindsets. You look at so I look at a couple of things. Okay, number one, and I've already shared the key threshold top line industry metrics that I think are fundamental. Okay, but let's drill down below that. The amount of time that it takes the average buyer to find a home is completely unchanged in 10 years. 10 years ago, 2008, it took the average buyer searching 10 weeks, an average of 10 homes to find their property. Last year, 2018, those metrics were completely unchanged. No change. Okay. Look at the trend in terms of the percentage of sellers using agents to represent them. 91%. It's grown from 79% in the last 20 years. Why isn't that going in the opposite direction, or at least flat? The buyer representation by agents is near a historical high, and for sale by owners are historically low at 7% last year. So like I said, the first thing it starts with is the mindset of the agent, recognizing that I am, as an agent, a sales professional, I am what makes the whole industry go. Then recognizing how to take pieces of the narrative that I'm sharing and weave that into your customer conversations so that the buyers and sellers recognize the disproportionate amount of influence that agents have on how this industry works versus the technology, right? And then to continue to work with leaders like yourself and in masterminds like LabCoat represents to make sure you're focused on the type of tech that's going to make the difference. And what I'd like to see our agents focused on is the technology specifically that works to make them more efficient so that they could spend more of their time leveraging the human elements of relationship building with their existing books of business and out cultivating new additions to their books of business. As opposed to a disproportionate amount of the time spent on the boundaries with things that I don't necessarily think are moving the needle. And I'll give you an example. 2011, the industry's players, the industry vendors, collectively reported that they sold 4.5 million leads to our realtors.
Okay.
2017, that went to 87 million leads. 2018, 100 million leads were sold to our agents. Now, tell me this. In a marketplace that has relatively the same number of licensed agents selling the same number of homes as we did 20 years ago to a community of 120 million households, how are we selling 100 million leads? How does this even make sense, right? So, yeah.
No, I was going to say that clearly. I mean, 100 million of those people aren't looking to buy a home, right? But like, what I think, well, first of all, it's much easier now than it was 20, 30 years ago to request information or to reach out to talk to an agent. It's much easier, right? But there's a question in my mind, right? The question is, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say 25% of those 100 million leads, let's say 25% of them want to buy a home and we're only selling 5 or 6 million homes. Where's the disconnect? You know, is the disconnect in the follow-up? Is the disconnect in the systems that the agent don't implement in order to respond with efficiency? Is the disconnect in that agents don't treat their business like a business? And where is that disconnect coming in?
Yeah. Okay. So let me address a couple of things first. Here's your great question. So again, it goes back to the threshold issue of inventory, right? Even if there were the appetite to buy 25 million, that's the demand side. If the supply side is only 5 million resale units, by the way, the same as it was 20 years ago, then what I'm saying is we fundamentally not focused on the supply side. And I'm saying it's the humanity involved in agents building trust-based relationships and dialogue with the existing homeowners. That's the only thing that's going to change the inventories, unless we can get the builders more confident in bringing new starts to the table. So unless we fix those two threshold issues, Nick, we can address the buyer side, demand side issue all we want. It's completely unfounded. That's the first thing. The second thing is, my argument is, how many of those 100 million people are already sitting in the databases of our network, of our agents?
So, that's a very good point. It's a very good point.
So what I'm saying is, why haven't those people raised their hand first to their agents to explore whatever they're trying to find online, to understand how the market really works, how we create the market, how we facilitate transactions in the market? That's the key issue that I'm trying to, to evangelize.
I mean, I personally have an opinion on that. So, I mean, personally, I feel there's a couple of reasons, right? So first, agents suck at staying in front of people. They don't know how to market. You know, they don't treat their business like a business. And second, the consumer doesn't understand. You know, they don't understand. Actually, no, I'm not going to blame the consumer. I'm just going to blame the agent. It's only one thing.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, we can't blame the consumer.
The agent doesn't do a good enough job in staying in front of their database. So, for instance, I started a new team in Michigan. I moved up from New Jersey, and over the last 6 months, we've had 4,000. We've had 2,500 people opt in to our database through retargeting on Facebook and so on and so forth. We are now seeing that 500 to 600 people a month are coming back to our website multiple times because we're staying in front of them on social media, when only 200 to 300 of those people are opening their listing alerts in their email. So email is dead. You have to know how to stay physically in front of people, where they are, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever the case may be. And agents don't know how to do that. That's where technology helps you stay front and center, and they just need to learn how that works.
Dude, with what you're saying, Nick, it's clear that it's not the consumer's fault, because if it was, Zillow wouldn't be alive. Look at what Zillow does great, right? Redfin does a great job online. All these tech companies that are going after people online, whereas where they are succeeding at a high level, because most agents haven't really nailed that down, right? Now, finally, we're doing a lot better, but now we're playing catch up in a lot of. I mean,
yeah, and I guess.
There, sorry guys, but I had a question for you, Chris. What with all of this happening with Zillow, Redfin, Open Door, Purple Bricks, all these companies, where is Berkshire heading with all this, with their tech and with your future for agents?
Well, I want to keep the narrative focused on the fact that our tech and innovation and transformation, whatever labels you want to put on the change that's taking place, we've got to make sure that it's in the best interest of the clients that we're serving, and the scorecard for service and client satisfaction is there more participation? Look, if the homeownership rate continues to go down, and the percentage of buyers each year that are first-time buyers continues to go down, and the amount of time that people stay in their homes continues to expand, those are very bad issues for us. So I just want to keep the narrative focused on what is the outcome that we're looking to achieve that allows us to look back and say that we won or lost. If we're not delivering a better product, a better experience, and growing the market share, then what's the deal, right? And so what we're saying is we've got to transform the mindset of the agents to be more long-term, less short-term, more strategic, less transactional. Recognize that it's the humanity involved in the relationship that's actually making the whole thing go. And therefore, what are the things that we can do as a brand to intrinsically tie the message that an agent has about themselves, their experience, their professionalism, and the association with our brand, which we're really built on four fundamental pillars: trust, integrity, longevity, and stability, which are the core values of Berkshire Hathaway. And then what do those things mean to our prospective buyers and sellers? Because here's the thing, if we can't convince buyers and sellers that there is an intrinsic value in being associated with real estate sales professionals who operate outside of just a transactional silo, then we're going to continue to be whipped around by industry competitors that claim that this whole transaction is just a commodity. So we've got to elevate the canvas that we're painting on to be more permanent, more strategic, and therefore we've coined the phrase the forever brand, real estate's forever brand, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, in an effort to have our agents be able to tell their buyers and sellers, look, am I here for the transaction, and will I get you, the best price or the quickest deal or whatever it is? Absolutely. But in addition to that, we want to be your realtor or your agent for life. And that's really the focus of, and so therefore the technology should underpin that capability.
Chris, that makes a lot of sense. I love that you called it the forever brand, because as you were talking, I'm thinking, well, how is Berkshire working with their agents to help them do that? And what you've done is, just by saying the forever brand and everybody knowing that, you're working internally through all the agents, and they know right from the very beginning, this is what we're working on. This is not a short-term strategy, right? Even our brand is the forever brand. I love that. That's solid, man. I like that. Nick, what do you think of that, man?
No, I think, I think that that's a really great way to, if the agents are able to convey that to their consumers, it's a great way to keep the agents front and center and to keep Berkshire Hathaway top of mind with them, for sure. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. With the forever brand, right? So what are some of the things that your agents are doing, or that you guys are teaching your agents to do, to stay in front of the consumer and get the consumer to understand that you are the brand that they should go to over and over.
Yeah, 100%. So, and that's where I was going. So great question, Nick. So, because you think about, and I'm a biochemist. I have my degree in biochemistry, and again, starting in technology. So I'm very procedural. I'm a career salesperson. Okay. So I'm very, sales oriented, but I'm also process oriented. So when I think about operationalizing a strategy, I think about, in terms of sales and marketing, I think about things in the context of a funnel, right? And so the funnel framework that we've created that informs all of the deliverables that we create is as follows. You've got at the very highest level ring, campaigns to leads, then leads to contacts, then contacts to contracts, and then contracts to close. So there's a progression top to bottom. And if you think about that funnel, you've got to divide your work as an agent into two parts. So your equal parts acquisition. So I'm bringing new prospective relationships into that funnel. And on the second side is retention, right? So I'm constantly balancing acquisition and retention, top of the funnel to the bottom. And effectively what you have, if you were to explore our deliverables, are a collection of things that start at the very high end in terms of marketing, brand building, promotion, advertising, then goes down into the operational elements of just sales skill development, right? How do I nurture leads to contacts? And then what is my sphere of influence development program? And really there's always a marriage of marketing deliverables, creative assets, strategic positioning, that could be execution in offline, print, newspaper, online, whether it's pay-per-click or Facebook or whatever it is. There's a constant blend of marketing deliverables and technology deliverables that make the progression of those journeys for the agent a reality. And so that's the way we approach it. And then it's really a matter of evangelizing the message that I have for you today with our technologists, our marketing partners, our marketing agencies, our internal staff, and then obviously with the network itself. So I would say for agents, and there are many great brands in our industry that have a similar philosophy, right? A different series of executions, but a similar philosophy. And I say for the agent who's not a part of an environment that has leadership that's evangelizing these types of messages, that's going to be a challenge, I think. I think it's going to be a challenge. And so I just encourage agents to constantly, invest in themselves and their environment and make sure that they're a part of an organization and that's why I love what you're doing with Lab Coat Agents is agents got to be tethered to something that's bringing them this kind of thought leadership, because I think this is the evolution of our craft moving forward. And that's how we're handling it on our network.
Hey, Chris, I got a question. So earlier you were saying, when we're talking about technology, because you have a technology background, so and a biochemist. So what is that? What's that called, Chris?
Yeah, I know.
A biotechnologist.
Biotechistry.
That's gonna go on your resume.
Yeah.
So my question is, all right. So we were talking about before, like agents need to understand how to utilize technology to put them in front of their consumer, right? Like that's what we're having trouble doing, right? Because we're relying so heavily on the Zillows and the realtors, and we need to figure out how to stay in front of them. So what are some of the technology systems that you're recommending to your agents, or that you are supplying to your agents to help them stay front and center?
Yeah. So again, let me just go back to the funnel, right? So the first thing is, how do we operationalize all of the great marketing and creative material that we're creating at the brand level, and complement that with many of our great companies who also do a great job at that step of the process.
Okay.
So you got to operationalize that, right? So we've got a number of different back office tools that we've enabled with single sign-on, global available, all in the cloud.
Cool.
That enables the agent to tap into those pieces and just try to put an easy button on it, right? So whether that's getting it out to their sphere electronically, I know you said email is dead, and I don't argue that it's declining, but whether it's putting an easy button on operationalizing the sphere, whether it's putting an easy button on getting those materials out to their digitally to their social networks or on a paid basis, and then obviously operationalizing advertising opportunities, right? So we put the easy button on taking those materials that we're developing and getting them into connected set top, getting them onto the TV, getting them into premium subscription streaming services. So a lot of different things hovering around that universe that happens at the top of the sphere, right?
Cool.
And
Okay.
then moving, right? So then moving down,
Yes.
down the funnel is, okay, then how do I make it easy to start bringing all of these services together? So we've put together a global cloud platform based on Salesforce, where we've really enabled single sign-on, identity management. Now the agent's coming into a seamless environment where all of the services are cross-connected, including a Salesforce-powered CRM, where we're enabling the agent to go from the creation of a business plan to the accountability and activity tracking of the things that they should be doing, activity-wise, right, to generate the outcome that they want, all the way through some automations on the CRM side and contact management side, and then progressing down with automations with companies like SkySlope and some of the others in the back office. Again, how do we put the easy button on taking a deal from my marketing contact, lead conversion to contact, some automations around CRM, and then putting an easy button on the back office. Those are the things that we're doing at a very high level, Nick. I know a quick summary, but that's what we're.
No, I love it. The less that an agent has to sign in to a million different platforms, and the quicker they can get a deal done, I mean, it benefits everybody involved, and it mostly benefits the consumer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, one last question for you, man. As we're seeing this whole industry change, where do you see the real estate agents being? Are they going to be the same agent that we see now, working the same way for the next few years, or are they going to change? Are we going to get less in commission? Are we going to get more? Are we going to what's going to change in the real estate world?
Well, I think
for the agent?
Here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see all of our great professional agents as an industry, not just, concerned about our network, because I think we're all in this together, and we've got to together begin to paint our value on a larger canvas. We've got to get out of this mindset where we're just here to facilitate a deal, and we're primarily only interested in conversations that will yield a deal in the next 30, 60, 90 days. I think that is a good way in terms of an agent's mindset to start their career, but I don't think it's a good way to expand and sustain a career. And so together, we've got to start being more strategic, be more value add, be less dependent on the deal by deal focus. And as a result of that, the marketing and brand building and service that we're presenting to our clients and prospective clients should be more broad. We should imagine a customer's whole experience around home ownership and real estate experience, not just the transaction, and start to present ourselves across that broader base. For instance, when a prospective seller is thinking about refinancing to do some upgrades or just let it sit and sell it as is, right? Who are they asking those questions of, right? When they're considering, do I do solar electric or do I do solar thermal? Do I do, a pool heater or not? These are questions that our realtors are more than capable of either answering themselves or connecting the homeowner with a value-added trusted partner. The problem is I don't see us as an industry presenting value or content or marketing materials that speak in that vein, right? It's almost like a financial planner's connectivity to an estate planner. So I'm a financial planner. And by the way, the financial planners used to sell life insurance. Before that, it was called burial insurance. Before that, it was called death insurance. So what happened is that profession evolved over time. They painted on a larger canvas. They provided more value. And now, as financial planners, they're creating an ecosystem of estate planners and various other trusted advisors that they're bringing into that relationship with the buyer, with their client, that I think the real estate agent needs to take a page from. We've got to be right. And as we develop, think about the great relationships that our realtors have with lending partners, with construction lenders, with general contractors, with various other partners. If we don't make that obvious to the client in the way that we market and present ourselves, then they're going to continue to look at us like transactional short-term facilitators of a commodity transaction. So that's where I'd like to see us go, Tristan. And if we focus on that with the idea that it's the humanity that really creates the transactions in our industry, not the technology, then I think that, you know, we'll make this turn together, be healthy, preserve our incomes. And I think to the extent that we see compression in the commission rates, what it will mean is the very best realtors will do more deals and the very worst realtors do less. And
by the way, that's just better for everybody involved. I might add that. Yeah. And second, you know, you just basically said what, you know, I've always thought all along. This is a human experience. I mean, buying and selling a house is a human experience. There's a lot of emotions. As much as it's a business transaction, it's more an emotional transaction, and no computer or piece of technology is ever going to be able to replace that. And so therefore, I think that there's always going to be room for the realtor. How much we're paid, that's a different story, but there's always going to be realtors.
Yeah. That's it, man. Remember, you hit that right on.
And remember that, you know, price is what you pay, value is what you get. Right. And so we've got to, as an industry, we've got to take back control of the narrative. We've got to explain our role in the transaction, compartmentalize the areas that tech adds some influence and efficiency, but then expand on all the things that we bring to the table from a human perspective.
Well, Chris, I don't know if you guys did this on purpose, and you may have, I don't know. But the fact that you branded it the Forever brand, and it sounds, first of all, it sounds awesome. But the fact that agents are continually saying that, the Berkshire Hathaway agents, and they're internalizing that, it actually starts working better with their mindset, because that's a big challenge in our industry, right?
100%.
So the
100%.
fact that they're already starting with, hey, look, this is a Forever brand, it's already changing their mindset. It's like, this is going to take a little longer. I'm going to nurture this client a little longer. That's what I love about that whole aspect of that. So congrats on that, man.
Thank you.
Nick, anything you want to add, buddy?
No, man, I loved it. I mean, Chris, it was great to get to talk to you and meet you and hear you speak. I've never heard you speak before, and there was a lot of great nuggets, and I'm looking forward to actually going back and rewatching it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
you're a smart guy, dude.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for what you do for our industry. Really appreciate you guys and all your hard work and determination and value add back to the industry. It's much appreciated.
Thanks, buddy. We appreciate that. So it was awesome for you to take the time to talk to us.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, care, guys. Man. Have an awesome day. All right.
You too, buddy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.